Welcome to the captivating realm of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss any of our exciting new stories. Enjoy the journey.
The wind howled across the icy peaks of Argos, bringing with it a biting cold that pierced to the bone. Lara huddled against a rocky outcropping, her blue skin sharply contrasting with the white snow around her. She tightened her thin cloak around her shoulders, but it offered little protection against the chill. Tears welled in her eyes as she watched the last of the Argon chips vanish into the stormy sky. They had abandoned her, considering her too weak to undertake the journey to their new home. At just 16 cycles old, she found herself utterly alone in this harsh and unforgiving world. As night descended and the temperature continued to drop, Lara realized she needed to find shelter or risk freezing to death. Her legs shook from the cold and fatigue as she stumbled through the accumulating snow. The wind whipped her long white hair across her face, obstructing her vision. Just when she thought she could go no further, Lara spotted a dark opening in the mountainside ahead, a cave. With the last of her strength, she dragged herself inside and collapsed onto the rocky floor. As unconsciousness overtook her, Lara's final thought was that at least she would die sheltered from the elements. Hours later, Lara was jolted awake by a thunderous roar. The ground shook violently beneath her as a blinding light filled the cave. Disoriented and terrified, she scrambled deeper into the shadows. The light faded, replaced by swirling smoke and the acrid odor of burning fuel. Lara began to hear voices, unfamiliar voices speaking a language she did not understand. Her curiosity overcame her fear, and she cautiously crept forward to look out of the cave. What she saw made her gasp. A massive metal ship lay wrecked and smoking on the mountainside, its pieces scattered across the snow. From the wreckage emerged creatures unlike any Lara had ever seen before. They walked on two legs like Argons but had skin in shades of brown and pink instead of blue. Their ears were strangely rounded, and their eyes displayed a range of colors. Humans. Lara had heard tales of them but never imagined she would encounter one in person. Now, a whole group was right outside her cave. She watched, fascinated, as they stumbled around in the snow, clearly disoriented. One of them, a tall man with closely cropped dark hair, appeared to be in command. He barked orders at the others, pointing and gesturing. Under his direction, they began to pull supplies and equipment from the crashed ship. Lara knew she should remain hidden, these aliens could be dangerous. But as she observed their struggle against the harsh conditions, her heart ached for them. They seemed unprepared for the brutal climate of Argos. Without help, they would likely freeze before morning. Taking a deep breath, Lara stepped out of the cave and into their view. Instantly, all activity stopped as the humans turned to stare at her. She raised her hands in what she hoped would appear non-threatening. Hello, she said tentatively in her language. Do you need help? The dark-haired leader strode towards her, his hand resting on the weapon at his hip. His piercing gray eyes scrutinized her intently. Who are you? He demanded. What are you doing here? Lara swallowed nervously. My name is Lara. I'm an Argon. This is my home planet, or it was. My people left me behind when they evacuated. Her voice cracked slightly on the last words. The man's stern expression softened a bit. I'm Captain Alex Raymond of the Earth ship Horizon. We've crash-landed here after being attacked by pirates. Can you tell us where we are? Lara nodded. This is Argos. It's an ice planet in the Andromeda Galaxy. The environment here is very dangerous, especially at night. You need to find shelter quickly. Captain Raymond glanced back at his damaged ship and the shivering crew. Our ship is too wrecked to provide adequate shelter. Do you know of anywhere nearby we could take refuge? The cave I was in is quite large, Lara offered. It should fit all of you. I can show you how to insulate it against the cold. Raymond regarded her for a long moment, clearly weighing whether to trust her. Finally, he nodded. All right, lead us to your cave. But I warn you, if you betray us in any way, you will regret it. Liera guided the humans to her cave, striving to mask her fear. She knew she was taking a risk by helping them, but she couldn't bring herself to leave them to freeze. As they entered the dark cavern, Liera demonstrated how to use the bioluminescent fungi on the walls for light. We need to block the entrance to keep out the wind, she explained. There are large leaves from glacier plants that work well for insulation. I can show you where to find them. Over the next few hours, Liera worked alongside the humans to make the cave livable. She was impressed by their ingenuity and teamwork. By the time night fell, they had constructed a cozy shelter with separate sleeping areas and a central gathering space. As they huddled around the heating units salvaged from the ship, Captain Raymond turned to Liera. Thank you for your assistance. We likely wouldn't have survived without it. Now, can you tell us more about this planet and why your people left you here? Liera's shoulders sagged. Argos has been our home for thousands of years, but recently the climate has changed rapidly. Storms are becoming more severe, and temperatures are dropping to deadly levels. Our scientists predicted that the planet would be completely uninhabitable within a few years, so the decision was made to evacuate to a new world. But they abandoned you? Raymond said softly. Why? Liera blinked back tears. I'm different, weak compared to the others. An organic anomaly. They didn't believe I would survive the journey or contribute to establishing a new colony, so they left me here to die. A murmur of sympathy spread among the humans. A young woman with fiery red hair reached out and squeezed Liera's hand. That's awful. I'm so sorry. Captain Raymond's jaw tightened. Well, you're welcome to stay with us. We could use your knowledge of this planet. He looked around at his crew. Everyone should rest. We'll evaluate our situation in the morning and decide on our next steps. As the humans settled in for the night, Lara curled up in a corner, her mind racing. In just one day, her entire world had transformed. She had gone from being alone and hopeless to being surrounded by strange aliens who seemed to accept her. For the first time since her abandonment, Liera felt a flicker of hope. The following days settled into a routine as the humans worked to salvage what they could from their ship and set up a more permanent camp. Liera proved to be invaluable, showing them which local plants were edible and how to avoid the more dangerous predators. She found herself growing close to several crew members, especially Dr. A.R. Chen, the ship's physician. The kind-hearted doctor took Liera under her wing, teaching her about human culture and customs. So, you've really never left this planet? Liera asked one day as they foraged for edible fungi. Lara shook her head. No, I've seen images of other worlds. But I've never been off Argos. What's Earth like? Ilara's eyes took on a dreamy look. It's beautiful. There are vast oceans, lush forests, towering mountains, and sprawling cities. The diversity of life is incredible. She sighed. I hope we can see it again someday. Do you think you'll be able to repair your ship? Liera inquired. Ilara's expression turned serious. Honestly, I'm not sure. The damage is extensive. We're running low on supplies and spare parts. Unless we can find a way to contact Earth for rescue. She trailed off. Liera felt a pang of concern for her new friends. She had grown fond of the humans and didn't want to see them suffer the same fate she had faced. There had to be a way to assist them. That evening, as the group gathered for their communal meal, Captain Raymond made an important announcement. I have finished assessing the damage to our communications array. Unfortunately, with the parts we currently have, we can't repair it enough to send a distress signal strong enough to reach Earth. A wave of dismay swept through the group, and Lara felt a deep ache in her heart at the sight of their despair. However, Raymond continued, if we can boost the signal somehow, we might reach the nearest outpost, and they could send help. But how? Asked Cooper, the ship's engineer. We don't have any equipment capable of that kind of signal boost. Liera cleared her throat, feeling nervous under the attention of the group. I might know of something that could help. There's an old Argon communications relay station in the mountains to the north. If it's still operational, it might be powerful enough to amplify your signal. Raymond leaned in, clearly interested. How far is this relay station? About a 3-day journey on foot, Liera replied, but the terrain is treacherous, and the weather can be unpredictable. It would be dangerous. The captain paused for a moment, deep in thought. Finally, he nodded decisively. It's our best option. We'll send a small team to investigate this relay station. Liera, we will need you to guide us. I'll go, Cooper volunteered immediately. Me too, added Ilara. We may need medical support, all right, said Raymond. The 4 of us will set out tomorrow at first light. The rest of you should continue working on repairs here at base camp. If we're not back in 10 days, assume the worst and enact emergency protocols. As the others began to prepare for the expedition, Liera felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. She had never ventured this far from home before, but she was determined to do everything she could to assist the humans who had shown her such kindness. The next morning was clear and cold as the small group set off. Liera led the way, her sharp eyes scouting the safest path through the rugged terrain. They made good progress on the first day, covering nearly a third of the distance to the relay station. As they set up camp that night around a small heat generator, Cooper turned to Liera with curiosity. So, what's the deal with your people? Why did they decide to abandon their home planet? Liera sighed, poking at the sparse rations warming over the heater. It's complicated. Argos wasn't always like this. When I was young, there were vast forests and grasslands, and millions of Argons lived in great cities across the planet. But then the climate began to change. At first it was subtle, slightly colder winters and more severe storms, but it quickly escalated. Within a few years, most of the planet was covered in ice and snow. Food became scarce as crops failed. The elders said it was a natural cycle and that things would return to normal, but they didn't. She paused, lost in painful memories. Ilara reached out and squeezed her hand in support. As conditions worsened, our society began to fracture, Liera continued. There were riots and wars over dwindling resources. Finally, the decision was made to evacuate, but there weren't enough ships for everyone. Only the strongest and most genetically pure were chosen. That's terrible, Ilara said softly. To abandon your own people like that, Liera shrugged. They saw it as a means of ensuring the survival of our species. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. That still doesn't make it right, Cooper grumbled. Perhaps not, Captain Raymond said thoughtfully, but we can't judge an entire civilization based on limited information. Right now, we need to focus on our own survival. He looked at Liera intently. Are you sure you can find this relay station? Liera nodded firmly. Yes, I've studied the old maps extensively. As long as the landmarks haven't changed too much, I can get us there. Good. Get some rest, everyone. We've got a long day ahead of us tomorrow. As Liera drifted off to sleep that night, she felt a sense of genuine optimism for the first time in years. These humans had given her a renewed sense of purpose, and she was determined to help them succeed. No matter the challenges ahead, the next 2 days of travel were grueling. They battled fierce winds and treacherous ice as they climbed higher into the mountains. Liera was impressed by the resilience of the humans. Despite the harsh conditions, they pressed on without complaint. On the afternoon of the 3rd day, as they crested a high ridge, Liera let out an excited cry. There! Do you see it? In the valley below, barely visible through the swirling snow, stood a massive dish-shaped structure, the relay station. Well, I'll be damned, Cooper whistled. The kid actually found it. They carefully made their way down the steep slope and finally reached the base of the station. As darkness fell, the structure loomed even larger up close, easily 100 meters tall, with a web of antennas sprouting from its surface. Looks like it still has power, Raymond noted, pointing to a faint blue glow emanating from within. Let's hope the systems are still operational. Cooper, see what you can do about getting us inside. The rest of us will set up camp. It took Cooper nearly an hour to bypass the old Argon security protocols, but finally, the massive doors slid open with a groan of protesting metal. As they entered the vast main chamber, banks of alien computers flickered to life, bathing them in an eerie blue glow. Fascinating, Elara breathed, running her hand over a console covered in strange symbols. The technology here is incredible. Can you make sense of any of it? Raymond asked. Liara bit her lip uncertainly. Some of it. I recognize parts of the interface from our historical archives, but a lot of this is beyond my understanding. Cooper was already elbow-deep in an open access panel. The core systems seem to be intact. With a bit of work, I think I can interface our communication equipment with the main array. It'll take some time, though, Raymond nodded. Do what you can. Liara, assist Cooper however you're able. Elara and I will secure the perimeter and set up a temporary base camp. We'll work in shifts to get this done. In a race against time, they tirelessly worked for several days to restore the ancient relay station to operational status. Cooper emerged as a miracle worker, successfully merging Earth technology with the alien systems. Liara's expertise in the Argon language was vital for deciphering the station's programming. Finally, on the fifth day, Cooper let out a triumphant cheer. I believe we've got it. The signals are ready to transmit. We just need to input the coordinates for the nearest outpost. Raymond quickly entered the required data. The massive dish above them began to move with a low hum, aligning itself to transmit. We're transmitting now. Cooper announced. They waited anxiously for several tense minutes until a light on the console began to blink. We're receiving a response. Cooper exclaimed. Raymond leaned closer, intently listening to the crackling message. When he stood up, a broad grin spread across his face. They've acknowledged our distress call. A rescue ship is on its way and should reach us within 2 weeks. A cheer erupted from the group. They had succeeded. Soon, they would be going home. As the humans celebrated, Liara felt a conflicting whirlwind of emotions. She was overjoyed that her new friends would be rescued, but she worried about her own fate. Would they take her along, or would she be left behind once more? Her concerns must have been evident on her face, as Elara approached her and wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Hey, what's wrong? Aren't you excited? Liara attempted to smile. Of course. I'm thrilled for all of you. I'm unsure about what will happen to me. Elara's eyes widened in understanding. Oh, Liara, you don't think we'd leave you behind, do you? You're coming with us, for sure. Really? Liara stammered, her voice filled with hope. You mean it? Absolutely, Captain Raymond chimed in, joining them. You've more than earned a place among our crew. If you want to come to Earth with us, we'd be honored to have you. Overwhelmed with emotion, Liara broke down in tears. The humans surrounded her, offering comforting words and support. For the first time in her life, Liara felt a genuine sense of acceptance. She had found a new family. The following 2 weeks flew by in a flurry of activity as they salvaged what they could from the relay station in preparation for their long journey ahead. Liara eagerly absorbed every piece of information the humans shared about Earth and their culture. When the rescue ship finally arrived, Liara felt a mix of excitement and nervousness as she boarded. This was her first experience leaving the surface of Argos. As the ship lifted off, she pressed her face against a window, watching her home world shrink beneath them. The rescue ship, sleek and called the Artemis, was much larger and more advanced than the crashed Horizon. Liara wandered the ship's corridors in wide-eyed amazement, marveling at the surrounding technology. The crew regarded her with curiosity, many having never seen an Argon before. Captain Raymond served as a protective buffer, fielding questions from the crew and ensuring Liara wasn't overwhelmed. She's under my protection, he asserted to the captain of the Artemis. I expect her to be treated with the same respect as any crew member." During the journey back to Earth, Liara found herself spending increasingly more time with Cooper. His easygoing nature and quick wit made her feel comfortable, and she enjoyed learning about the ship's systems from him. "So, this plasma converter," Liara inquired, peering at a glowing blue tube, "it powers the entire ship?" Cooper nodded, smiling at her enthusiasm. "That's correct. It converts hydrogen into usable energy, far more efficient than the old fusion drives." Liara furrowed her brow in thought. "But where does it source the hydrogen? Surely, you can't carry enough fuel for such a long trip." "Ah, that's the beauty of it," Cooper replied. He began to explain how the ship's magnetic scoops collected stray hydrogen atoms from space as they traveled. As he spoke, Liara found herself studying his face, the warm brown of his eyes and the curve of his smile. An unfamiliar flutter of emotion stirred within her, and she quickly looked away, her cheeks flushing a deeper shade of blue. If Cooper noticed her reaction. He didn't mention it, but she caught him glancing at her more frequently thereafter, a thoughtful expression on his face. Meanwhile, Dr. Chin had taken it upon herself to provide Liara with an accelerated course in human biology and culture. They spent hours each day discussing everything from basic anatomy to, Liara was intrigued by the idea of marriage. Ilara chuckled, saying, "That's the concept, but it doesn't always unfold that way in reality. Relationships can be quite complex." Liara nodded thoughtfully. "I think I'm starting to grasp that," she said quietly, reflecting on her confusing new feelings for Cooper. As days went by, Liara found herself becoming more integrated with the human crew. She joined them for meals, sharing stories and laughter. She even attempted some of their games, although the rules of poker still puzzled her. Suddenly, alarms blared through the ship, casting the corridors in a frantic red light. Liara's heart raced as she hurried alongside Cooper to the engine room, their feet barely touching the ground. "All hands to battle stations." Captain Mann's voice crackled over the intercom. Multiple hostile ships on an intercept course. They rushed into the engine room just as the first impact rocked the ship. Liara stumbled and collided with a console. Cooper quickly steadied her, his expression serious. "Pirates," he growled, his fingers flying over the controls. "The same ones that attacked us before. Liara, keep an eye on these readouts. If any go red, shout." Liara nodded, focusing intently on the unfamiliar screens as chaos erupted around them. The ship shook violently under another barrage. Sparks flew from an overhead conduit. "Shields at 60%. Someone yelled from across the room. Cooper cursed and dove beneath a panel, rerouting auxiliary power. "Liara, how are those readouts still green?" She called back, gripping the console as the deck lurched beneath her. Through the viewport, she caught glimpses of sleek black ships darting past, energy weapons flashing. Suddenly, a massive explosion shook the Emmys, throwing Liara to the floor. Her ears rang as she struggled to get up, seeing flames erupt from a ruptured fuel line. "Fire in engineering." Cooper shouted into his comm. He grabbed an extinguisher and tossed another one to Liara. "Aim for the base of the flames." Together they fought the blaze as the ship continued to shudder under enemy fire. Sweat dripped down Liara's blue skin, her lungs burning from the acrid smoke. Just when it seemed they might be overwhelmed, a commanding voice cut through the chaos. "This is Admiral Chen of the Earth Defense Fleet. Stand down and prepare to be boarded, or we will open fire." Liara breathed a sigh of relief as a massive battle cruiser emerged from warp, dwarfing both the Artemis and the pirate ships. The pirates quickly retreated, unwilling to confront Earth's military strength. As the adrenaline wore off, Liara began to tremble. Cooper wrapped her in a tight embrace, his heart racing against her cheek. "It's all right," he murmured. "We're safe now. You did amazingly." Liara clung to him, realizing that her feelings for the human engineer ran deeper than she had acknowledged. The remainder of the journey proceeded without major incidents as they entered Earth's solar system. Excitement grew among the crew. Liera spent hours at the viewports, captivated by the sight of the enormous planets in the outer system. Finally, after weeks of travel, a blue-green sphere came into view, Earth. Liera gasped as they approached, watching swirling white clouds drift over vast oceans and sprawling continents in shades of green and brown, with the twinkling lights of countless cities spread across the landscape. "It's beautiful," Liera whispered. "Just wait until you see it up close," Cooper replied, standing beside her. He took her hand and gave it a gentle squeeze. "Welcome to your new home, Liera." As the Emmys began its descent through the atmosphere, Liera's mind swirled with questions and possibilities. What would this unfamiliar new world be like? How would she fit in among so many humans? The ship landed softly with a gentle thud as the airlock cycled open. Liera took a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and stepped out to embrace her new life on Earth. She knew that whatever challenges awaited her, she would not face them alone. As Liera stepped onto the vibrant surface of Earth, a wave of emotions washed over her. The air was rich with unfamiliar scents, a mix of flora and human activity, and the bustling sounds of life filled her ears. She took a moment to soak it all in, her heart pounding with excitement and trepidation. Cooper was at her side, a reassuring presence amidst the chaos of new experiences. "Welcome to Earth," he said with a grin, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "Are you ready for your first adventure?" "What's first?" Liera asked, her curiosity piqued. "We're headed to the Welcome Center. You'll get to meet some of the other crew members and learn about Earth's customs. Plus, there's food, lots of food." He chuckled. And Liera couldn't help but smile. As they made their way through the bustling streets, Liera marveled at the sights around her. Skyscrapers stretched into the sky, their glass facades reflecting the sunlight. People hurried past, each absorbed in their own lives, yet there was a sense of community in the air. The laughter of children playing nearby and the aroma of street food filled her with a warmth she hadn't expected. At the Welcome Center, Liera was greeted by a diverse group of humans, each one eager to share their stories and experiences. They were fascinated by her background and her journey from another world. One woman with bright pink hair and a contagious laugh approached her with open arms. "You're going to love it here, Liera. Earth is full of surprises." Liera felt a rush of camaraderie as she engaged with the new arrivals. They shared their favorite Earth foods, cultural traditions, and even the quirks of living in a planet that had weather patterns and seasons. Each story added to her excitement about her new life. After the orientation, Cooper suggested they explore the local area. "There's a park nearby that has a stunning view of the city skyline. Plus, it's a great place to relax." Liera nodded enthusiastically, and they set off towards the park. As they walked, Cooper pointed out various landmarks, explaining their significance. Liera listened intently, absorbing every detail. When they arrived at the park, Liera was taken aback by the beauty of the landscape. Lush greenery surrounded them, with vibrant flowers blooming under the sun. They found a quiet spot under a large tree, and Liera sat down on the soft grass, feeling the warmth of the earth beneath her. Cooper joined her, pulling out a small container filled with what looked like an assortment of colorful snacks. "These are some of my favorite Earth treats," he said, offering her a piece. Curiosity danced in her eyes as she took a bite. The explosion of flavors took her by surprise, sweet, tangy, and utterly delightful. "This is incredible!" she exclaimed, her eyes lighting up, as they enjoyed their snacks. The conversation flowed effortlessly. Liera opened up about her home, her people, and the experiences that led her to this moment. Cooper shared stories of his childhood, his dreams, and what it meant to him to be part of a crew that explored the universe. "Sometimes, I wonder what it would be like to see the stars from your world," he said thoughtfully. "To experience a different kind of sky." Liera smiled, a sense of kinship growing between them. "It's breathtaking. The colors are different, and there are constellations that tell our own stories. I would love to show you one day." Just then, the park's atmosphere shifted as a group of performers took the stage in a nearby amphitheater. Musicians began to play lively tunes, and dancers filled the space with movement. Liera's eyes sparkled with wonder as she watched the vibrant display of culture and creativity. "Let's join them," Cooper said, rising to his feet. With a mix of hesitation and excitement, Liera took his hand, and together they moved toward the performance area. As they danced and laughed, Liera felt a newfound sense of freedom, her previous apprehensions melting away. This was her new life, full of adventures, friendships, and endless possibilities. And with Cooper by her side, she felt ready to embrace it all.